I am Lena Abrahamsson, professor in human work science at Luleå University of Technology in Sweden. I am very honored to be invited to give this lecture. I will talk about new technologies in mining and how these changes affect gender equality and the mine work of the future. I will do this with examples from the Swedish mining industry, and you can read more in my article about can new technology challenge macho masculinities, the case of the mining industry. In Sweden, we have the last 50 years seen a transformation from hard, difficult underground work close to the rock to automation and remote control from surface. In the beginning, in 1980s, it was mostly automated trains and remote control underground, and then we saw a move up to high-tech remote operation centers. And today, we see a strong focus on digitalization and green transformation. More and more intelligent automated systems. Some of this is still dreams and visions, but the mining industry is talking quite a lot about this, and we will probably see this come to reality quite soon. As you have learned in lesson 2, these new technologies and the changes that come from them will have a lot of impact on the mining work, mostly positive, more safety and better work environment, a move to white collar environment, control rooms, perhaps working from home, new types of work tasks, digitalized, new ways of organizing work, global multi-teams, new skills and qualification demands, but also higher demands for safety culture, new type of workplace culture. We see also more diversity, inclusion and gender equality interventions, and also more women mining workers, underground mining workers, thanks to the better work environment and the gender equality efforts in the mining sector. But there are also negative impacts, risk of them at least, new work environment problems, detailed control, isolated work, de-skilling, and perhaps that the gender patterns are not changing because of the new technology. Digitalization is quite connected to men and to masculinity. So what can we see? The impacts, what can we see? We can see already we see this move from the old mining work to a digital high-tech mining context. New types of mining work identities, qualification and competences are emerging in the mining sector in Sweden, both for blue-collar workers and white-collar workers. There seems to be, and the mining work companies are talking quite a lot about, there's a need for a new type of mining worker. At least there will be a new type of person that the companies will recruit in the future. And a need for changing the existing staff, of course. The workplace culture, the mining identity, and the ideas of a real mine work are gradually changing. And we can see, for example, that the old type of macho culture at the mining workplaces is progressively becoming obsolete. And there is a good hope for more gender equality, of course. But we can also see, and this is what I'm going to talk about a little bit more, the move is perhaps too slow and perhaps not towards gender equality, because there are also resistance. For the changes, they are challenging to the old type of mining work and mining identity. And this is creating somewhat paradoxical responses with a lot of resistance and restoring responses at the workplaces, at least in the beginning. There are quite a lot of resistance against new technology, against safety, against environmental awareness, against gender equality and women miners, and against diversity. It seems like the old workplace culture is conservative, and mostly workplace culture, they are conservative. So this is nothing strange. But we have seen in our studies that the old workplace culture seemed to be lagging behind development, at least in the beginning. And by this we mean that we have seen that they are at the workplaces, in the organization, they are glorifying the old time, the risk-taking, the macho masculinity. They are trying to restore the old mine worker masculinity with roots in the old manual, tough and dangerous mining work. And the workplace culture seems to follow the old symbols rather than the new symbols that come from digitalization and new type of mining work, the mining work of the future. So the workplace culture is lagging behind, and the most interesting thing here is the tendencies of quite a hesitant attitude towards technological development. Quite interesting, because we see here feminizing of the new technology. That it becomes quite interesting to see, and also the more still focusing on risk taking and macho masculinity, trying to restore this. And why? Well, mining in Sweden is still quite a male work. The mining industry is male in a concrete way, but it's also male in a symbolic way. That work, the professional identities and the workplace cultures, they still have strong symbolic links to this special form of collective and local masculinity at work. And this is what I call the mine worker masculinity, quite a classical blue collar masculinity, but also with tendencies of a macho masculinity, sometimes quite over obvious macho masculinities expressions that we can see in the mines. And the interesting thing here is that these links between this type of masculinity, or with masculinity and mining, the links between masculinity and mining, this makes the lagging of the workplace culture resilient and extensive. Nothing strange, it's quite natural because workplace culture function this way, but the links between the masculinity, because the strong links with masculinity makes the lagging more problematic and have more effects. The lagging, it can counteract with the company's need for renewal and development in both the organization and the technology. It creates informal problems for implementation of new technology and new work roles, new organizational forms, safety. And it also a problem for the men in the organization. But naturally, it also functions as gatekeeper, excluding women and hindering gender equality, diversity, and other inclusion interventions. In other words, it can create problems here and now, and therefore needs to be handled. So one of my conclusions here is that the technologies, the organizations, and the workplace culture might need some help to develop faster and in a good direction. With that, I mean towards more gender equality. So how to work with gender equality in male-dominated workplace culture? In this course, you will discuss quite a lot about this, but I will just shortly mention that one problem is that despite the previously a male dominance, and still is quite a male dominance, numerical male dominance, most gender equality problems in Sweden have been referred only to women. It has been the changes, the plan changes, the just strategic changes have been campaigns to recruit women. And there's a lot of ideas of women's otherness and special competences. And there are also projects to help to reduce women's minority problems in male-dominated environment and also connected work environmental problems. Much of this is good, but it's not enough. You have to do this, but I think my point here is that you need to do something more, because gender is about both women and men. And it's about how ideas of gender is embedded in the organization and the technology. And this is the key here, because it's also embedded in the mine workplace culture and in the mine worker identity. So if we want to change male-dominated organizations, we have to work with the workplace culture at these workplaces, meaning we have to work with the majority, the men, those who make and carry the workplace culture. And women and men need to do this together, of course. And we also need to use gender and diversity theories as tools when developing the mining work of the future. I will end my lecture here with a short note on how a little bit more about how to work with gender equality, because you need to handle both the changes, because mining work is going, it's a lot of emerging, and it will continue a lot of changes, but there will still be quite a lot of resistance, different kind of resistance. So the mining work of the future is formed by both changes and resistance. So in this context, how can we support the development of gender equality? And you need to do both changes and both resistance. You handle the resistance. Firstly, you need to fix the organizations and the technology. You need to change the technology so it's in the workplaces so they can suit many types of people, both women and men. And you need to fix the symbols, change the gender marking of workplaces and processes, reduce connection to gender in many ways, and promote a gender tone down at the workplaces. And you need to fix the numbers. With that, I mean you need to change the numerical gender distribution, because the number actually do matters. So you need to avoid this kind of gender segregation, to have women in one type of work and men in another type of work. You need to increase the gender mix. And lastly, you need to manage and counteract and prevent resistance to change. So with this, I end my lecture on new technologies in mining and how these changes affect gender equality and the mining work of the future. Good luck with the rest of the course.